seems like Magnolia County is constantly moving from one fire to the next. In the past, unemployment was the county's biggest issue. However, with the opening of the massive Johnson Aggregates copper mine, the issue is no longer that there aren't enough jobs, but rather that there aren't enough educated workers for all the new jobs in the area. Governor Sheila Johnson, as CEO of Johnson Aggregates, is painfully aware of the issue. Her mine has not been operating at peak efficiency and profits have suffered as a result. But beyond hurting her bottom line, opening the mine has become a political catastrophe. Employers throughout the region have been unable to find employees and blame the governor. Many are openly pining for a new governor, one with a few less conflicts of interest, one that doesn't directly compete with them for employees. Knowing the stakes, Governor Johnson directs her Department of Education to find a new location for a university in Magnolia County. At the same time, she begins a pressure campaign on the legislature to get them on board with providing funding for a new campus. Though many in the legislature are deeply concerned about the process, many agree that a university could be a boon to the region as well as the state as a whole and authorize funding for the project. With funding in place, the Superior Department of Education procures land for the university from a major local landowner, begins work planning for the university campus, and gets shovels in the ground as quickly as possible. All the while, the governor keeps touting that this university will be the flagship university for the entire state, and she is the reason it is opening. In this episode, we're going to build a massive university using basic assets in creative ways to create a fully custom university campus. We'll also build a few neighborhoods for university staff and professors alike, and by the end, completely transform the region for the better. And if you like building college towns, hit the like button. And if you just plop a university and forget it, hit the like button for that too, and let me know what you prefer to do in the comments. Or just drop an emoji letting me know how you're feeling today for the sake of engagement. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome back to Magnolia County. We're starting here with a view of our previous build because I think it perfectly illustrates why we are building our university campus today. Almost every single one of these businesses that we built in the previous episode is complaining that there's a lack of high-skill labor. And there are a couple of consequences to this. So for our extractor buildings, it means that we're only operating at 80% efficiency, for example, for this one, which means that we're not extracting as much as we could, and we're not generating as much revenue as we could from this building. And for a zone building like this one, which is operating at 46% efficiency, it means that the building is likely not going to level up very quickly because they're not generating the revenue that they would need to be able to level the building. So by building up our educational pipeline, ensuring that it works, we'll be able to fulfill all these needs and hopefully improve our tax collections. So we need to figure out where to build this. And the first thing I want to look at is the contour lines. Now we're going to build this across from Bend, and I think you can already see where I'm going to build it. We've got this little area right here with two hills, and I think if we level one of the hills, we'll have the perfect spot for a college. One thing I like about this location is we've already got a stub right here from our highway, so access to Bend should be fairly quick. And if we were to make a couple of connections here with local roads, we should be able to easily get utilities over to our campus. So let's begin by purchasing some tiles, and I'm going to do what I shouldn't be doing. I'm going to buy a bunch of tiles right up front. In fact, I think we're going to buy 6. These 2 right here, and then these 2 right here. And now that we've purchased all those tiles, we are going to buy a bunch of stuff in our development trees. So the very first thing I want to buy, we'll get the college and the university, and then I want to go ham. We're going to get the technical university. We're going to get the geological research center. We're also going to get the radio telescope, and we're not done yet, folks. We're going to go into our administration menu and get the welfare office, and I want to get the server farm. Whew, we've spent a lot of development points. I can't wait to get building. So let's just get started. I want to level out a bit of land first and prep our site. So we'll go into our level terrain tool and increase this a little bit. And this hill right here is going to have to go. We'll build around this one. I think it'll be a unique feature of the campus, but I do think that there'd be a bit of pre-grading. And then for our main college building, our University Technical College, I think we're going to place that at the top of the hill. Because is it really a university if there isn't a tough hill for the college students to climb up? So we are going to slope up here. Right now, this is a pretty steep slope. You can see that the contour lines are pretty close. So I want to spread this out a bit. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create a base for the university. And then we're going to slope from this height down to here. And let's make this easy for ourselves. I will draw a line where we will slope to. This is a temporary path, but it will help us with our terraforming. So from this line, right mouse click up here, left down here, and slope up towards this. And there, I think that's looking really, really natural. I also want to make a couple of key connections up here. The very first one I want to make is going to be a controversial one because we're just going to send a local country road right here. The whole purpose for this road is to jump power and water across because we know that we already have power and water going over to these farms over here. And now here is our section line. So now that we purchased this tile, I'm just going to send this out. And then I'll connect up this road as well. This will need to go into our college campus, and you can see it's lining up right along what will be the side of our main technical college. So that means that we've got water and power here. We'll worry about this other entrance at the very end. I want to lay the college campus out first before we figure out how we get in. This will likely be the main entry point, so we want to make sure we do a really good job with that. And now with our basic site prep done, let's move along to laying out our academic buildings. And now that we have a break from the rain, let's begin by building our quad. And what I'm thinking is we are going to put our main university building up near our property boundary up here. We'll have our quad, which will just be a nice grassy courtyard just beneath it. Then we'll have a college building just beneath that. And we have to have that because of our overall education pipeline. Remember, colleges and universities are different. And then we'll have a couple of buildings on the side to make it feel more like a campus. So for our university, we have a couple of options. We could go with the very basic university that you unlock with that first unlock after colleges, or we could go with this technical university. The normal university is about $100,000 less to build the building, but the upkeep is actually $40,000 a month more. The capacity is slightly higher, 500 students more. So maybe not slightly, it's actually quite a bit higher, but it lacks the bonuses that the technical university has. So with the technical university, you get 10% extra industrial efficiency and 10% extra office efficiency citywide for both. So in my estimation, the technical university is the right approach for us because I don't think we're going to fill it up anyway. So I want to place that at the top of the hill, and I'm going to leave enough space on the side to add additional parking. And then at the front, I really want to pay attention to the asset. And this is something that we're going to focus on for this entire build. What does the asset actually need? On either side, it looks like we need roadway access for our parking lots. But in the center, we don't necessarily need that. We can go with a pedestrian street if we want. So that is what we will do. But let's add those alleyways in the side so we have access to our parking. And then I'm snapping to the side of the building right here, and we'll just add these on. Now I'm going to disable snapping to the zoning cell length and the grid because I want to really be able to micromanage where this connection occurs. And you can see that there's a crossing there. I'm trying to pull the crossing to be right next to the driveway. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on both sides because I think aesthetics in this build are going to be really, really important. There we go. Now we are going to build our quad, and we'll go into our pathways. And again, we're going to pay close attention to our snap twos. I want to not snap to zoning cell length or the grid to begin. And I want to line up this path perfectly with this path right here. And now I'm going to turn snap to zoning cell length on again because I want to measure out how far I'm going. And we'll go, this is about 7 units from up here. Let's turn that off again because I want to mirror this on both sides. But this time around, I can snap to that existing guideline. And now I just want to measure how far this is. I think it's 5 units-ish. Yeah, we're 5 units. So now we're going to pull this down and we'll go maybe 3 units down. And then I'm going to go a unit and a half over. And now I want to mirror this on the other side as well. So we'll go out a unit and a half. And then we'll use our continuous tool to connect these up. And I have to turn off snap to zoning cell length. Otherwise, it won't be even. Now I'm going to mirror this one more time. And now from here, we need to mirror this on the other side after we reach where we want to reach. So what I think we're going to do is go down maybe 6 units. And now to copy this, it should be just as simple as using our continuous tool, clicking here, clicking up here anywhere, and then looping back around. And now I want to mirror the 5 units once again. I'm just going to extend this all the way through. And now the trick will be getting 5 units up. And now to get the 5 units up, I'm going to show you how I would do this in vanilla. I would pull this up and get my 5 units. And now with the path, I should be able to completely mirror this perfectly. And we can get rid of that road. Now on the sides of this, we could do our 5 units again, but I think I'm going to do 6 because that will mirror the length here. And I want to do that because I want to have something decorative in the center, maybe like an oak tree right in the center here. And I'll have that on both sides. Now, I want to place the planter for the oak tree, and we're going to use our continuous tool for this. And I could try to make this super precise, but I think in this particular instance, I'm just not going to let perfect be the enemy of good. We'll try to make this look roughly centered, and then use our continuous tool to loop around, and then we'll do the exact same thing on this side. And bluntly, I don't think it's going to matter if it's just a little bit off. You're not going to be able to tell. That looks really good in my estimation. Now, again, more patterns. There we go. I love that so much. So I think this is a perfect demonstration of why sometimes less is more. Now, we're going to continue with our paths. I'll go out another 6 units, and we'll do that on either side, and then we'll run some more pedestrian paths down here. And for the sake of consistency, I'm going to turn off snap to zoning cell and then find the end of this path so I can run this up nice and evenly. And then we finish out our quad by doing the exact same thing here. Next, we're going to add a college right across from our technical university. And I know the styles of these really clash, but we have to have a college. Now, I'm thinking of this as maybe the administration building or maybe even a law school. If you have an idea, why don't you drop it down in the comments below, and we will definitely update that in the next one. I'm going to place this here for now, and then again, I want to investigate the asset. There's parking up front, and we have a pedestrian road here. So here's my solution. We're going to grab an alleyway, and I want to run that along the back. And then I'm going to grab the building and spin it around. And now you can see that the alley is facing the parking. And on this side, we have a pedestrian-oriented entrance facing our pedestrian-oriented street. So I love that. The trick is going to be getting this to be centered. And you can see it's just slightly off. So I'm going to disable snapping to the side of the road and try to just line this up perfectly myself. And that is pretty darn good. I'd be hard-pressed to do better than that. And then next, underneath research, we are going to grab our Geological Research Center. Now, I'm thinking of this as maybe the School of Geography or something of that nature, and we're going to place that right about here. Now, one thing about this building that's kind of interesting, you can see that there's this loading right off the front again. We don't want that. And basically every other side is pedestrian-oriented. So once again, we are going to add an access to the back, but I've got to be really careful with this one because we're going to add some more buildings over here. So I'm going to kick this back maybe 6 units, and this will be the roadway access to this building. And then we'll place that right here. Now, for all of these buildings, you see that there's this sidewalk right here. If you were to just wrap the side of the building, the sidewalk will extend past it. And I think we're going to use that to our advantage. And we'll get it to appear that that sidewalk is terminating at our pedestrian path. And then right here, we'll do something even more unique. I want to go to the very edge of this with our continuous tool on. And once again, pull out a little ways and then wrap this. And look what that does. It wraps almost perfectly all the way around this. And then I work to find a perfect 45 there, and we'll just send that off into our pedestrian path. Now, before we do that, though, we've got a couple more pedestrian connections to make here. So let's add those. That is just about perfect. And then we'll just need to decorate in this area in the future. Really, really like that. On this other side, we're going to do something very similar, but we're going to use a unique building over here. I want to use our welfare office. And we'll immediately notice that it once again has parking in the front of it. And just like our previous building, we are going to snap to the back, pull this back 6 units, and then refocus the street that our building is on. Now for this one, I want this center fountain to be right on the center here. And I think that's pretty close. Let's just make sure. And you can see I'm just slightly off. Oh, that is perfect right there. Now, I'm wondering if we're going to run into the same issues if I run paths around it. Not on this one. So this one is okay with me running the paths all the way around it. And honestly, I think things are starting to look really good, but we are absolutely burning through money right now, and we're not educating a soul. So let's start to get this thing connected. And what I'm thinking is we're going to make a connection between this road and this one. So we are going to use our complex curve tool, which is not one that I've used. Now I want to give a huge shout out to Donut Monger on the Discord, who is a channel supporter as well. They made a video to demonstrate the use cases for this and how to use it. And what it comes down to is you start your complex curve, you click on your middle, you click to where you want it to go, and then you pull it right in and you get the perfect complex curve. It is a wonderful tool once you fully understand it. And I want to give Donut Monger a huge shout out for pushing me to use it and demonstrating how it's done. But now that we've added this, you can see that a complaint is basically gone everywhere except for right here at our college. And we have to have our college connected. So I'll do something. This will probably be temporary, but it might not be. We'll just link that up and now all of our buildings are connected. And let's take a look at our education pipeline quickly. And you can see that now we have capacity for everything, our university, our college, and our high school. And there are folks that are eligible, so we'll start to see people going here. And before we go any further though, I'm noticing we've got a problem. Our elementary school's completely filled. And I think that we're going to use an elementary school on campus as a building. But in the meantime, we are going to just pop on over to Bend momentarily, and we can add on to our elementary school, which is indeed full. So we'll just add an extension wing here, which will give us 500 more capacity. And I'm sure we're going to use that up almost immediately. And sure enough, we've already added 141 students to this building. That is absolutely outstanding. Okay, back to our college campus. I'm going to temporarily rename these buildings so I remember what they are. This will be the geography building. This will be the University of Superior. This will be the University Administration building. This will be our School of Law. And next, we're going to build our School of Information Technology. And for that, I'm thinking that we will use our server farm. Now, I know this probably sounds crazy to you, but hear me out. I think it's going to work really well. So once again, we've got a building that has a whole bunch of loading. However, if we take a look at it, there are some actually really nice pedestrian facilities right up front. So we've got some benches here, some pedestrian paths. It looks like a very nice building all the way around. You can imagine this being some sort of a dining area and then some cafes on the back. So I like this as a college building. And if we place it right here, we should be able to actually grab roadway access from the rear of this building. Well, we'll have to think about the best location for this anyway. So I'm going to move this around a little bit. And actually, we're on a hill there. Let's move it down here. And I want to leave enough space for a path to get around this because we can have some dorms behind it. And we'll do something like that. Now, the very first thing I want to do is get our roadway access established to this. So we'll do something like this. And I made more changes to this building than I probably should have, but I felt like I had to. Now we'll come back to this one and once again pedestrianize it. And then I want to be able to extend past this. So we'll run a path right there and one right here. And then we want to connect in this location. Let's see how close we get. And there we go. Now I added this roundabout through here, which you can do with pedestrian facilities. I don't know how I feel about this just yet, but we'll leave it there for now. We might change that down the line. Now, the one thing that we have done here is completely sever roadway access between these two halves of the university. And honestly, I'm good with it. I think it's completely fine. We want this to be pedestrian focused first, and that is going to be our goal. Now, in this area right here, we may have some dorms or something of that nature in the future. Not 100% sure just yet. We're going to be flexible. Now I want to switch gears and we'll come back to our college and finish this area up. And one of the things I want to do is add on our college library. So this improves a student's chance of graduating, which I think is really important. Before we add that though, I want to make sure that we've got a spot for it that's level because you cannot fix this after the fact. We'll add this on. I'm going to keep it level with the building itself. And then we will mess with some paths once again to try to make it look nice. And there we go. We've got paths around most of this. And I want to remove some of the trees through here. We're going to be planting our own trees and really manicuring these areas. And right now the trees are kind of just in the way. Now there are some places where I'm going to want to try to work around the trees. This is not one of them, so we'll get rid of these. Let's focus on the area behind this. And I think we have an opportunity right here to maybe extend a pedestrian path straight through here, have some sort of plaza-like amenity. And then we'll bring these roads down here. Now right here, I'm wondering if we could fit in our police station, and I'll do something like this. We'll have our police station right here. So yes, this will be fronting a pedestrian street, but I'm not overly concerned about police driving on the street if they have to. You'd kind of expect to see that anyway. And then we'll frame this place out with our pedestrian paths, which I really like the appearance of these. And it also gives us the opportunity to maybe add another park behind here in the future or something of that nature, or just add more pedestrian paths and really clean the look of this place up. Now, while I'm thinking about the school, maybe this is the place for the elementary school. Now, we're going to use this as our school of elementary education or something of that nature. And I'll once again place that right here. I want to take a look at this thing. Does it actually need roadway access? It does not. So in that case, I'm going to slightly back it up to improve the look of it. And there we go. It might seem strange to have that on campus, but I think it will fit in eventually. I might make it look a little bit better though by adding the extension wing right off the bat. So we're doing some things that maybe aren't super realistic. And then I added all these pads here. I think we might call a little bit of a mulligan on some of these. And we will add in our children's clinic, which to me makes a lot more sense at a campus like this than kind of as a standalone. And then next, I want to place in some sort of healthcare facility, which you might expect to see on a campus as well. I think that we will add that maybe right about here. And then I'm going to sever this road because we have these trees here and we might actually work around them and have our road meandering a bit. So I'm going to run this straight back here. And then we will once again use our complex curve tool. Here's our midpoint. Here's where we are going. Then we run our road straight up there. Oh, I just love that tool so much. It is absolutely outstanding. And there's one final building I want to add, and this one's going to seem very odd. We are going to add a park maintenance depot. And I'm thinking of this as kind of the maintenance depot for the entire college campus. So this is not a building that we want to feature in a very visible way. So I'm going to sneak that back here into the woods. And we'll do something just like that. Now, for a college campus like this, you'd expect there to be lots and lots of parking, or at least I would, at least where I am. So we are going to improve upon that. In fact, for our main building, it looks like there's a few parking spots up front, only 2 of which are accessible. And then there are more in the back, but it's not all that many. So we are going to add in one of these overground parking buildings. And I think we'll do something like this. If we can fit it in. We cannot. We're going to do it. We're going to buy one more tile right there. And then behind the building, we will add in this parking structure. In fact, we'll do something like that. We'll run this road right here. And then all the way around the college, we're going to once again run a path. And then because we're using our alleyways right here, we will run a multi-use path along the side here. So we've got a bit of parking back here. This will be our main student parking. If they wanted to park, that's where they would go. The other parking lot we'll place over here, and I would think of this more as a faculty parking lot. So once again, we will conform to the grid, and I'm going to use some of these medium parking lots. Oh my goodness, that was way more complicated than it had to be. I was slightly askew on this road right here, Evergreen Lane. It wasn't perfectly parallel to Sunset Street. Absolutely crazy names, but because of that, it looked bad and I had to completely redo it. Now it's done. Now I'll be happy. It's going to be just fine. And now with our academic buildings in place, I think it's time to move on to our dormitories and amenities. One of the things that we have to figure out on our campus is a dormitory situation, and that's a little bit challenging because we don't have dorms in the game. So I've taken a look at a number of the buildings available to us and done a little bit of whack-a-mole to figure out what I think would look best as a dorm. So we're going to be using mostly European medium density housing, which I think looks pretty good, along with a bunch of low rent housing. So let's begin with the low rent housing. And what I think looks best for a large building is a 6x6 low rent building. I want to place just one of those in the rear of the campus back here. Now, the interesting thing that I realized as I was testing this is that there is no difference between European and North American low rent housing. It's all the same, so it doesn't matter what you select. But here we go. That will immediately start building. We're going to come back to this because there's only one model that I think works well for this, and I will show it to you as soon as it spawns. Let's also switch gears and we'll come over here near our College of Information Technology. And what I want to do is run another pedestrian road behind this, and we'll give ourselves some space and run another pedestrian road all the way up here. And now that we've run this back here, we're going to switch gears and have some of our European medium density. And the building sizes that I like the most back here are 4x6, 5x6, and 6x6. And I'm going to leave a considerable amount of space in between these. And when I have something like this, I wanted this to be a 6x6. I'll just keep deleting until I get a 6x6. And for the European buildings, we don't really need to do all that much. For the most part, they're all going to look really good. The only whack-a-mole we need to play is to ensure that our 6x6 actually shows up as a 6x6. Now let's go back to our low-income housing, and I'm going to speed this one along. And what I'm looking for with the model here is I want to make sure that we don't have any parking. And look at that. No parking. This is the only 6x6 that works for this. And it's a large building. It is kind of sad looking, but I think it'll work for a large dormitory. You know, we could probably even have two of these if we really wanted. In fact, let's just do it. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This 6x6 building will spawn a whole bunch of cars and they will continually go to this. Now, initially, when you get this building, you will get cars or taxis dropping people off. But as long as your building does not have parking, people will not drive to it. So that's going to be really important for us. Regardless of the building that we have, we just need to make sure that we don't have any of those spawning. Over here, we've got our dorms, and I love the way these look. We get a variety of colors, and they just, in general, look pretty good. The one thing I might do, you can see that these are a little bit off kilter because of the way that we've done our zoning. I'm not going to be afraid to play a little bit of whack-a-mole. I'm going to scoot that building over one tile. I think visually we'll get a bit more continuity and it'll look really good if those buildings are perfectly in line. All right, we finally spawned these two, and I know I could have used the dev tools to place these. I'm going to try to avoid to do that. I just, to me, that's a little bit further than I want to go away from vanilla. So I'm going to play whack-a-mole. It's completely fine. We get a little bit of variation here and I like it a lot. And then over here, we got these to spawn. And I think you can see these are a little bit more close to parallel than they were before. And that's what I was looking for. I'm going to add two more spots with dorms. One will be right here. So what I'm thinking is we'll grab a pedestrian facility and run this behind the trees and up the hill, and then we'll loop back around. And once again, we will use some of our European medium density homes. We'll try some 3x4s, and then we're gonna also add some more right here.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No.
And we'll once again use some of our low rent housing. And then because we haven't connected these pedestrian roads up with another road, we're going to need to manually run power and water there. So we'll run this underneath the road. And there we go. Now we just need to look at these buildings once again to ensure that they do not have parking, and it looks like we are safe there. These should be completely fine and good to go. And as we recover on our high density demand, we should see the rest of these fill in. Now I want to switch gears from these and think about other amenities that you might expect to see on a campus like this. And of course, we've got to have some sports facilities. We'll add some basketball courts over here. And then I'm also going to add an outdoor gym or two. And I want to find some places for some of these large parks as well. So there's going to be a lot of parks in this area, but I think that it makes a lot of sense for university. You'd expect to see that in a place like this. And then to round things up, I think we're going to have some sort of a sports campus over here, or like a campus of sports fields. So we'll have a soccer field and a football field and maybe even a community pool over here. So I want to make sure that there's pedestrian access as well as motor vehicle access, or at least maybe not motor vehicle access. Maybe we just want parking in close proximity. Now, I want to reorient things a bit right here. Our road kind of cuts back for no apparent reason. So there'll be two things that we do. I'm going to, instead of reorienting, I'm going to send a road back here, and we will have a bit of parking back here. We'll need some pedestrian facilities to connect this parking lot to all the rest of these facilities. And then I think that we're going to need some parking to serve this facility. I got rid of Robin Lane right here because I don't think we want that anymore. I'm going to level this out. We'll probably need to adjust Pearl Lane down a little bit, and then we'll add a large parking lot. And there we go. I think that this will formalize this road right here as the main entry point into our college campus at some point in the near future. And then there are two more things that I want to add to the university, both of which might seem a little bit strange. The first one is going to be the chancellor's house. So we're going to say that one thing that you get if you're the chancellor of the university is a residence that you can stay at. So we are going to once again grab our alleyways, and I'm going to send that somewhere back here. And we are going to use a specialized building. We're going to use the Rock Musician Mansion, which will actually improve the well-being within 500 meters of this building, which will help these buildings at a minimum. I'm going to place this here temporarily. I know that this building has a double entryway, so we're going to need to create a roundabout. So we'll go into our alleyway, and using the continuous tool, I'll add a little bit of a roundabout down here, and then we just pull this building right up to it. Beautiful. And then after that, I want to add the radio telescope. So this will increase our chance of graduation citywide. It is ridiculously expensive, but I think that if we're going to invest this much in the university, we need to also be willing to invest in the telescope. So we're going to place that out here, and we'll force the chancellor to share access with this facility. And boy, oh boy, things are looking good, but we are bleeding money. So we need to adjust our taxation. And I think we're going to bump things up for the time being to 17% across the board. And that will get us closer to an equilibrium. And hopefully with the next part of our build, we will completely stabilize things. So let's move on to building some university neighborhoods. We're going to be building two neighborhoods that are really focused on university professors and staff. They're going to be relatively insular and not really directly connected to the university by roads. So one will be right here. This will be the neighborhood of Highland, and this will be Barksdale. These will be named directly after the towns that they're in, and I'm excited to build them, but I'm noticing that we've got some issues here with some of our low rent housing that I want to address first, because I think we need to call a bit of a mulligan. I think I made a mistake. So we've got these homes on these pedestrian streets, and the one thing I didn't think about is how police would access these. And indeed, if we take a look at these, the main issues: small homes, can't do anything about that. High crime, that's police coverage. Walking distance to elementary school. If you recall, we just built one right here, and apparently that's a problem here. So I think that what we've got to do is connect these little pedestrian roads to a larger pedestrian road that is connected to the main roadway network. And there we go. This should completely resolve all of the issues that we've been seeing over here. We see that the buildings are now spawning in. So I'm going to switch gears over to our neighborhood while that fills in. Now we have a collector network through here, collector right here, right here, right here. The highway is our main arterial. And I could upgrade some of these to look more like formal collectors, but rather than doing that, what I think we're gonna do is add some pedestrian paths along the side of these. So I don't wanna zone on these roads at all. I want it to be somewhat walkable, but I want this to feel very exclusive, and I think that this is a way to accomplish that goal. And now let's lay out the streets in these neighborhoods. And I don't want to do anything with the grid tool. I don't want to snap. I want this to feel a little bit messy and a little bit organic. So what we're going to do is basically come through and just draw some roads and follow some terrain lines and make things feel a little bit messy, and it's going to be a-okay. Now, I'm drawing a bit of inspiration here from Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. And one of the things that I noticed in Bryn Mawr is that there were a lot of narrow streets for the professor homes that felt like they were right part of campus. Now, we're going to supplement some of that lack of vehicular connectivity with pedestrian connectivity. And there are a couple of key places where I want to do that. So we want to go like this and make connections from the ends of cul-de-sac bulbs into roads so that this area isn't cul-de-sac if you're a pedestrian. I imagine this being a very, very active neighborhood where people like to walk and cycle. So we'll make that incredibly possible with our pedestrian connections. And there we go. I think as far as paths go, you can see that this would be a fairly simple place to get around as a pedestrian, maybe a bit more complicated as a driver, and I'm sure all the residents here like it that way. And now we need to add a little bit more in terms of city services, in particular parks and recreation, and we'll just go with a number of small parks through here. Small parks, maybe a playground or two, and not much more. And obviously, we have to have a dog park. After giving it some thought, while I was placing these, I decided to go extra hard on the parks with the thought that the university would be using these neighborhoods as selling points to potential professors, reasons why people would want to come here, want to teach here, and why this is a great place to live. And now I think we're finally able to fill this place in with some zoning, and we're going to go with some European single-family homes. And we're going to try to really control the way that we're placing these. We're going to leave quite a bit of space through here, and I may vary it up a little bit, but I don't want a ton of large lots. And there we go. We filled most of this in. It was a little bit tedious, but truthfully, I think the result is going to be really good. And I decided to not just go with the 3x3s, though I do love the look of the 3x3s. We mixed it up a bit, and we have some really interesting designs through this neighborhood. And we're going to make this feel really lush with trees in just a moment. But one thing I want to focus on for just a little bit is commercial, because we haven't really done anything with that just yet. And I do think that that would be something that would be necessary in this area. So I'm going to place just a little bit of commercial right along here. And my goal is going to be to spawn buildings that can go side by side that don't have any parking up front to make this feel like it's walkable. And as I hovered over this, I noticed we're now making money again. Things are looking good. And one thing I'm noticing is it appears that the 3x3, first of all, I'm using European zoning and I didn't realize that, and I'm good with it. But it looks like the 3x3 zoning works really well to create this effect of having no parking up front. So we're going to roll with that. And then you can see we've got a row of these 5, it looks like everything from convenience stores, plastics, papers, recreation, all of it's right here. They're all the same. None of them have parking. And I did this because I just want to have one shared parking lot. And we'll place that across the street. And if you want to drive here, you have the ability, but the priority is most definitely walking. And that will serve this neighborhood as well. And just zooming into this neighborhood, I think you can get the vibe that we're getting here. Smaller homes, but these are going to level very quickly because of all of the amenities and the close proximity to the university. I really like this neighborhood. I think it's time to move on to building our main university access. The connection that we're about to make is going to be the most important connection into the university. It's going to be right here. It'll go across the railroad tracks and connect up with a road that goes directly into the heart of our university. Now, I say a road because I'm not 100% settled on how we finish this just yet. But one thing I am settled on is that I want this to go over the top of the railroad track so that it's grade separated so we don't have any conflicts with our passenger rail or our cargo rail networks. So to begin, I'm going to remove this temporary roundabout that we added, and then we'll go into our 2-lane highways and plan our route. And what seems to make sense to me would be going along the side of the hill here and maintaining as much space for other uses. And then we'll want to pull a height that's about 10 meters higher than the rail. And because of the hill, it's really easy to figure this out. And it's actually basically the top of the hill. So I'll do something like that and then slope down to the road. And we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. And we're doing this because pushing dirt around is always cheaper than building a bridge. I will readily admit to allowing perfect to be the enemy of good right here. I just wanted to make that bridge span a little bit longer so the train had a little bit more clearance, and I'm pleased with the result, even if it was absolute madness. So right here now, I'm going to add a roundabout. We're going to do something over here, and I don't want to direct all the traffic to either a stop or through the university to get over here. So let's create a roundabout. And I've created an old City Skylines 1 style roundabout, and I think it's going to do really, really well for us here. So I'm going to take the highway, find the midpoint, curve it right in, and then let's upgrade this to be a 2-lane road. Now, there's a lot that we could do here to improve this, but because it's City Skylines 2, I think that all we really have to do is give an extra turn lane here into the roundabout, and it will do the trick for us. And then on this side, I'm not going to worry about it. And now I'm just curious to see how this is working, so I'm going to let this run for just one moment to make sure that we have traffic going into our university. Okay, and I see some of our first cars rounding the bend, checking out our roundabout. Things are working well, and I am pleased. So I think it's time to move on to a bit of landscaping, detailing, and farming. And I think to begin, we're going to tackle our farming first, and that's because I want the farming to be attached to the university. So this would be a place where you could learn how to be a farmer if that's something that you're interested in. So we're going to have some farms right here. We'll have one functional farm and then one fake orchard. But before we do that, I want to add a road off from our roundabout to head off into the distance because I don't want the university to be a major barrier that is insurmountable in the future. So we'll just add a road right here, and then we'll add another road right here, and this will be our access to our farms. And now let's take a look at what we need in terms of farming. And honestly, we don't need any of it, but we do have more grains and chickens than vegetable farming. So even though we have a bigger surplus here, I think I'll go with vegetable farming. I also like the idea of vegetables over chickens anyway for the proximity to the university. We know that we have plenty of resources right here, so I'm going to place this right about here. We'll angle it towards the road that we just placed, and then we'll add a dirt road going in here. And the one thing that I'll do that'll make this unusual is I'm going to add parking. And the reason we're adding this is because this is a class space. And you would imagine that you might need folks to be able to drive over here because it's not exactly pedestrian friendly. And that looks pretty good. And then over here, we'll have our orchard. Again, this will not be a functional orchard, but I think it's going to look really good. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. I also decided to line this farm with oaks and then back this out a little ways so that we would have good sight lines around our roundabout. The last thing I want to do is make this dangerous. Now, before we move on from this, I noticed that we're having some strange things happening in our roundabout. There are folks parking in here. That's a no-go. So I'm going to add some grassy terraces around here, and that will eliminate all the parking much, much, much better. And now I'm going to turn my attention to this hillside right here. And I know it's not much, but this is going to be a very important feature of the university. The very first thing I want to do is remove 100% of the foliage that we see right here. And then I'm going to embark upon something that's probably a little bit extra. We are going to try to write superior right here. So wish me luck. Okay, and this is not where I want to stop. This is not going to be a path. We're actually going to landscape around this. And that took a long time, but I really, really love that. I think that this would make this place feel super special. So happy to add that to the area. Now we're going to do a little bit of decorating around the rest of this, but I'm going to give my finger just a little, oh my goodness. You've got to be kidding me. Well, I hope that this doesn't impact our build in any significant way. It looks like it's spinning around over here and not hurting us at all. So I'm going to just keep doing what I was about to do, and we're going to plant some landscaping back here. And now that we've planted all the trees, we'll just say goodbye to our friend the tornado. Keep going down the river, whatever suits your pleasure. I just don't want you coming over here. I've spent a lot of time over here. So now we're going to add a bit of landscaping throughout the entire campus. And I do want to remove the existing landscaping within our pad areas, with the exception of right here. I want this to feel really well manicured. Now, I'm going to plant a bunch of trees along our major trails, and I think we'll start out with our London pine. And we finished up landscaping at just the perfect time. The snow is starting to fly, which is absolutely the perfect time to plant landscaping in the upper Midwest. But we've done a lot here, and I'm really, really happy with the way that this has turned out. So I think there's just one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. I'm going to be completely upfront with you. This is one of the most fun builds I've had in City Skylines 2. One of the things I like about a mostly vanilla build is that you're forced to really use your creativity to come up with something interesting, something that represents some place that you've seen in the real world. So we're using assets in really creative ways and coming up with really creative solutions to a university campus. Is this as good as after an inevitable campus DLC comes out? Maybe not. But for what we have right now, I am very, very, very pleased with this. Now, I did make a couple of changes off camera. The first and most evident is that I've added a couple of districts right here. So like I mentioned, this neighborhood right here is called Highland. This one is called Barksdale. And I've created a district around the entire university as well. Now, interestingly, the university has a massive population. We're looking at 1,500 people on the university campus alone. Barksdale and Highland have under 200 people each, kind of to be expected. And then the other change that I made off camera is I went over here to our copper mine and I've changed the landscaping around the outside of it. This is due to a comment that Vainglorious Gaming left, who basically said I lost them at this part of the build. And honestly, after giving it some thought, I completely agree. I think I got completely enamored with the line tool, and I probably should have left this feeling a little bit more natural along the outside. So I've planted a lot of landscaping here. I think in the future, this is going to look absolutely outstanding. For the time being, you know, it's baby trees. But the other reason it's nice to come over here is you can start to see that some of our issues with education are starting to be resolved. There's only 2 buildings that are complaining about a lack of high-skilled labor, and I'm sure that will be resolved in short order. And I think we're going to leave it here. Really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I've really enjoyed bringing this one to you. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I really want to thank you for your time today. It's an absolute privilege to be able to bring these videos to you. And I know that there's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.